House of Commagene. Franz Clement proposed that the cult of the Magaseans was ultimately responsible for the development of Mitraism, a type of proto-Freemasonry that was popular in the Roman army, and which displayed remarkable similarities with Christianity. However, modern scholars dismiss the theory because they rightly perceive few genuine Zoroastrian influences in the cult, failing to realize that Clement instead demonstrated that Mitraism was derived from a heretical Magian tradition. Roger Beck has submitted an intermediary theory. Specifically, Beck located the transmission of the early Magian tradition to the Roman Empire via the House of Commagene, a small kingdom located in modern south-central Turkey, in what had once been part of Greater Cappadocia, with its capital city as Samosata, or modern Samsit, near the Euphrates. 17. Initially, the cult of the heretical Magi was most prevalent in that part of Asia Minor, that is, of Armenia, Cappadocia and Pontus. Pontus was a name applied in ancient times to the extensive region in the northeast of Asia Minor, now Turkey, the greater part of which lay within the immense region of Cappadocia, which in early ages extended from the borders of Cilicia to the Black Sea. The Armenians traditionally identify themselves as descendants of Ashkenaz, the son of Magog. However, both Armenian and Georgian historians also record that after the destruction of the First Temple, Nebuchadnezzar transported large numbers of Jewish captives, not only to Babylon, but also to Armenia and the Caucasus. By the end of the 4th century BC, some Armenian cities had large Jewish populations. 18. Commagene was ruled by a dynasty known as the Orontids, an Armenian dynasty founded by Oront, who had been appointed by the Persians as satrap, or governor of Armenia, between 570 BC, 560 BC. The Orontids established their supremacy over Armenia around the time of the Scythian and Median invasion in the 6th century BC. Oront married Rhodogown, the daughter of Artaxerxes II, 435 or 445 to 358 BC, then reigning emperor of Persia. Artaxerxes II would have been the grandson of Xerxes, 519 to 465 BC, who according to Jewish tradition, married Esther. In the Book of Esther, Ahasuerus, usually identified with Xerxes, is married to Vashti, whom he puts aside after she rejects his offer to visit him during a feast. Ahasuerus' chief advisor, Haman, is offended by Esther's cousin and guardian, Mordecai, and gets permission from the king to have all the Jews in the kingdom killed. Esther foils the plan, and wins permission from the king for the Jews to kill their enemies, and Mordecai becomes prime minister in Haman's place. In the late 19th century, some critics developed the theory that the Book of Esther was actually a story derived from Babylonian mythology, representing the triumph of the Babylonian deities Marduk and his goddess spouse, Ishtar, over the deities of Elam. Esther is an Aramaic name for the goddess Ishtar. Mordecai means servant of Marduk, Marduk being another name for Bel, the chief god of the Babylonians. In 1923, Dr. Jacob Hochender wrote the Book of Esther in the Light of History, in which he proposed that the events of the book occurred during the reign of Artaxerxes II, as part of a struggle between adherents of the still monotheistic Zoroastrianism, and those who wanted to bring back the Magian worship of Mitra and Anahita. The biblical story forms the core of the Jewish festival of Purim, which James Fraser believed was derived from the Babylonian New Year festival. 19. Theodore Gaster also presents several theories for the origin of Purim in his volume Festivals of the Jewish Year. In one theory, Purim is asserted to date back to the Babylonian New Year festival. On that day, the gods were believed to determine the fate of men by lot, and the Babylonian word for lot was Puru. The description in the Book of Esther of the parade through the streets dressed in royal robes, the mock combat, and other happenings are similar to the Babylonian celebration of the New Year. According to Hayim Shas, Purim originally appeared among the Persian Jews and was adopted by them from their non-Jewish neighbors. 20. A very popular festival with both the Persian and Babylonian Jewry observed an annual festival that had the characteristics of a spring masquerade and was a festival of merriment, play, and pranks. Apparently, Jews also took part in this New Year celebration, and eventually the story of Esther had been invented to explain the celebration, and to turn it into a Jewish celebration. 21. The rulers of Commagene could claim dynastical ties with both Alexander the Great and the Persian kings. The combined heritage found in Antiochus I, 86 BC, 38 BC, of Commagene led to the assimilation of Mithras with the Greek Hercules, which marked the first early form of the Mithraic cult. Antiochus I of Commagene had supported Pompey against the Parthians, and in 64 BC was rewarded with additional territories. After submitting to Greek rule under the Seleucids, the Persian Empire eventually re-emerged under the Parthians, a semi-nomadic people who, in the 2nd century BC, arose from an area southeast of the Caspian Sea. It was ruled by the Arsacids, who claimed descent from the Persian king Artaxerxes II. Through the conquests of Mithridates I and his brother Artabanus II in the 2nd century BC, the Parthians established control over Iran and expanded westward into Mesopotamia. Antiochus I was able to deflect Roman attacks from Mark Antony, whom he eventually joined in the Roman Civil War, but after Antony's defeat to Augustus, Commagene was made a Roman client state. This state of affairs signaled the beginning of the relationships that led to the transference of the Mithraic cult to Rome. Antiochus is most famous for founding the sanctuary of Nemrutdigi, an enormous complex on a mountain top, featuring giant statues of the king surrounded by gods, each god being a synthesis of Greek and Persian gods, where Apollo is equated with Mithras, Helios, and Hermes. The gods are flanked by the heraldic symbols of a lion and an eagle. Scholars dismiss the fact that this cult could represent an early form of Mithraism. However, Mithridates VI of Pontus, 135 to 63 BC, also known as Mithridates the Great, who ruled between 120 and 63 BC, was allied to the pirates of Cilicia, a province bordering Commagene. Mithridates, meaning gift of Mithras, was one of Rome's most formidable and successful enemies, who engaged three of the prominent generals from the late Roman Republic in the Mithridatic Wars, Sulla, Lucullus, and Pompey. His demise is detailed in the play Mithridates of 1673 by Jean Racine, which formed the basis for many 18th-century operas, including one of Freemason Mozart's earliest, known most commonly by its Italian name Mithridate, Re di Ponto, written in 1770. When Mithridates VI was defeated by the Roman general Pompey the Great in 65 BC, in the last of a series of three Mithridatic wars, remnants of his army took refuge among the Cilician pirates. In the middle of the 2nd century AD, the historian Appian adds that the pirates came to know of the mysteries from the troops who were left behind by the defeated army of Mithridates VI. 22 Plutarch, who lived in the 1st century AD, maintained that these pirates were also responsible for transmitting the mysteries of Mithras to the Romans. According to Plutarch, these were the pirates who constituted such a threat to Rome until Pompey drove them from the seas. In his biography of this general, Plutarch writes of the pirates, "They brought to Olympus in Lycia strange offerings and performed some secret mysteries, which still in the cult of Mithras, first made known by them the pirates." As a youth, after the assassination of his father Mithridates V in 120 BC, Mithridates is said to have lived in the wilderness for 7 years, to build his resistance to hardship. While there, and after his accession, he cultivated an immunity to poisons by regularly ingesting them in low doses. 23. He invented a complex universal antidote against poisoning, which Celsus in his De Medicina names Antidotum Mithridaticum, the basis of the English Mithridate. 24. Pliny the Elder described it as comprising 54 ingredients to be placed in a flask and matured for at least 2 months. After Mithridate's death in 63 BC, many Roman physicians claimed to have improved on the original formula, which they touted as Mithridateum. Mithridate's anti-poison routines included a religious component, where they were supervised by the Agari, a group of Scythian shamans who never left him. Mithridates was also reportedly guarded in his sleep by a horse, a bull, and a stag, who would whinny, bellow, and bleat whenever anyone approached his royal bed. 25. Mithridates' sixth daughter, Cleopatra of Pontus, married Tigranes II the Great, 140–55 BC, king of Armenia. The medieval Armenian historian Moses of Corinth wrote that Tigranes settled thousands of Jews from Syria and Mesopotamia in Armenian cities. It appears that some of these earliest Jewish settlers later converted to Christianity. Josephus wrote that Judean Jews were taken by Tigranes II's son, Artaxerxes II, d. 31 BC, and resettled in Armenia, again during the 1st century BC, but some years after Tigranes' resettlement. 26. Many Jews stayed in the area. Vassal kings appointed there by the Romans included the Herodians Tigranes IV, 30s BC, 1 AD, and Tigranes V, 16 BC, 36 AD, in Greater Armenia, and Aristobulus, 55–60 BC, in the western borderland, or Lesser Armenia. 27.